Chapter 90 to 94 and omake 1. Einar's POV. Accepting death while trying to protect someone was also my one wish when I first got reincarnated into a different world. I know it sounds stupid, but as a person who adores knights and heroes and their honor, my fantasy lies in that wish. However, there are many things that you can't simply achieve, or your two wishes could clash sometimes. How will you live and make a family when you had that kind of wish to die in war while protecting something? Is that land? No, since land is just a surface with dirt. What matters most are the people. I was the same. When I saw Mordred in the face of death, stupid and foolish all three of us may seem, but I was happy to sacrifice myself and save that child. I know what she did was wrong while I was not clean myself, but I simply can't help here and see her die. When I used swap magic to replace Mordred with me and take death on her instead, I was kind of happy. With that ending, one thing is clear: a human will always be human even if he turns into a monster, fairy, or a god. Making mistakes only to realize that it is too late to fix is common in their fates. If you see from my perspective, I was also the same. I noticed late, but at the right time when I realized my mistakes, I stepped forward. I really had no way to survive in this universe if not for Chastiefol and the great people I encountered in my life. However, I, unknowingly, made a terrible mistake and became arrogant. I, unknowingly, started seeing everyone beneath me. That also includes Arthurian. Where I on one hand just had to use experience point to upgrade or acquire any skill I desire without much need for hard work, while Arthurian had to work so hard to become a king that I should be proud of without any leeway to proper sleep. Whether consciously or unconsciously, I just pushed her to the throne while standing behind her. I knew that she was just a puppet being used, yet I didn't do anything. I knew how hard she was having with the work as a king, but I didn't do anything. I blamed her for even a little mistake while didn't admit my mistakes. In short, I compared myself with her when the difference was clear from day one, yet I never took the step forward and blamed her for everything. In another short term, I was for the blame for all of this. But now, after saving Mordred, whom I also loved and adored, I didn't regret my decision in saving her. When I slapped her and treated her coldly even when she never did anything to deserve this, I didn't even consider her feeling. But then, after facing darkness, then opening my eyes like a deep slumber, I opened my eyes and saw a nostalgic ceiling made of wood. It was like my home on the entrance of forest near the hill of Camlin. However, I discard that thought since the hill was ruined and was stained with blood when I last saw it. This must be a heaven. I casually muttered those words as I was still confused. Another thing I noticed was that I had regained my true powers. I could also feel a connection to Chastiefol now. But my next view confirmed my thoughts when I turned my head and saw Arthurian with her hand supporting her head lying beside me and looking at me affectionately. What skyrocketed my inner lust was her thin single-layer white fabric around her body, supported by two threads around her shoulders. It was the nightie that I gifted her when we first had sex, where you could see her curves. Arthurian. Yes, Einar? I called her name and she answered with a smile. This is heaven, right? I asked while she only chuckled softly and spoke, yes, for us. Good. I smiled and then turned myself as my face got close to her pure glowing skin face and emerald green eyes. If this is heaven, then I am so into you. I smiled. I am the one who killed you, remember? Arthurian reminded my last moments of my death. I am too tired to live in past. I just want to cuddle you, lick your body, and eat you wholeheartedly. I said as my hands caressed her cheeks down to her breast, which was bigger than the last time I see. Now that I took a closer look, she had become a little mature and had already left her previous childish side. Einar, you still remember that I am your wife? Yes, I remember our last night, and I am way hungrier now. Then I am all yours forever. She smiled then, without the need for each other's approval. Our lips met. As if tasting a nostalgic taste of each other's essence, both of us moaned in delight. She wrapped her hands around my neck while I embraced her whole body while cuddling her butt. Ah, I missed her but so much. My happiness jolted when I stroked her butt. Not so small like last time and not too thin and perfect like Skahatch, but still round and adorable. Without any care of problems of this world and any misunderstanding we faced during our life, we forgot everything at the moment while we just had our love in our eyes. After kissing for a few minutes, our lips parted reluctantly since another matter needed the attention. Look how big your little dragon has become. I have missed it so much. Arthurian said while caressing my dick that was soaring high in the sky. That big African dick looked weird on a 17-year-old boy, but she never complained about it. Same here, look, your peaches have turned into a more mature apple. Aura, climb on. I said while fingering her nether region and asked her to initiate the child-making program. She blushed and chuckled and climbed on my belly and put the top of my dick to the entrance of her cave. Einar, I will never leave your side. Please forget everything and let's start a new life, my beloved husband. Same here, Arturia. From now on we will live however want. Let bygones be bygones and make lots of children. I smiled and she nodded. Without minding the pain, she put my 9.5 inches long dragon in her belly with a single move. Ah, she moaned loudly. Then I tried to pump myself to raise pleasure, but she put a finger on my chest by saying, just rest a little, and let me do the work of a wife from now on. She then started pumping her ass while also pinching my nipples to maximize the pleasure. Teach, father, what the? In the middle of sex, I heard a familiar voice and saw Mordred, who was sleeping sitting on the chair while her head on the bed. As if waking from our moans, she turned her head and looked confusedly at us naked and performing an activity for making children. Mordred, you are also here in heaven? Come here, I know you liked me for a long time, but worry not, you are next in line. Delirious with heaven delusions, I said, and without giving her time to react, I wrapped my hand around her chest and took her in my arms. I didn't care the way she addressed Arturia as father since it sounded gay, but there is no ethics in here because that's what heaven is. Wait, Teach, she tried to say something, but my hands already removed her single-layer red bra and started fondling her lemons. Man, this is true heaven and I freaking love Oyakodon. I cheered with a smile. Arturia, who was tossing herself, chucked while Mordred became crimson red and yelled, "This is not heaven." Einar's POV. After calming myself and snapping back to reality, I was sitting with my hands hiding my embarrassed face. Beside me was sitting Arturia with a smile on her face leaning on my arm while Mordred was sitting right in front of me on a chair with a flustered face. I was so embarrassed acting like a child since I was not in heaven but alive, and the one who brought me to life was none other than Arturia. After reviving me, both of them called a truce and helped my unconscious body here in my old house. Then the rest followed like before. So embarrassing. Though I didn't know, Arturia and my stalker mothers would be laughing with their asses on the ground. There. Arturia tried to cheer me by tapping not my back or head but my still standing dragon under the towel. The hell, father? Where the hell you are touching, Teach? It was Mordred who was baffled by watching the new side of Arturia. Oh, by the way, she was wearing her trademark red outfit that she used to wear under her armor in Apocrypha. As if triggering a nasty memory, Arturia glared at Mordred with razor-sharp cold eyes and spoke, "Mordred, I don't care if you are my clone or whatever, but don't call me father. I will only allow children born with my beloved husband to call me mother only. I have left behind my old identity as King Arthur or Ideal King." Okay, whatever. Mordred flinched with the fear and nodded, then turned her head away. I knew that she was kind of acting like Sundara, but I would deal with her later because I wanted to know what Arturia's plan was when she killed me. "Arturia, can you tell me how you revived me?" I asked. She nodded and then began to explain. "It starts when you have gone missing and Galahad revealed the Holy Grail that he was hiding." Arturia's POV. When Einar, my husband, went missing after our first night, I began searching for him desperately, but I was not of any help. Even Merlin failed. However, everything changed when Galahad, Einar's close friend and his nephew, revealed the existence of the Holy Grail that he never revealed before. Then, "Miss Arturia, can you do anything for Uncle Einar?" It was Galahad's question. Of course, nothing mattered most in this world than him. My belief was firm. It was my selfishness that I shouldn't supposed to acquire, yet I did, and I was not ashamed. Even if it means to kill him? His next question stopped my heartbeat for the second. "Can you elaborate, Sir Galahad?" "The thing is..." He then revealed the true story of my fate. How a girl named Arturia becomes a king, how she conquers the Camelot and becomes an ideal king for the people. However, she herself stops being a human. She then made a number of mistakes, Mordred, her clone born with her sister Morgan Le Fay, rebels, and then destroys, while nation to take revenge. Then, in the end, that girl named Arturia loses everything, and the fate where she desires to face her doom alone also brings people with her. In a desperate attempt to correct that mistake and treating herself unworthy, she made a contract with Counterforce to seek the Holy Grail and undo the day when she pulled the selection of sword. I was disgusted with the way the law of this universe works to only make slave heroes by making their fates pitiful. Everyone from my friends to my foes, including that child Mordred and my sister, were just pawns in the pre-written system and stepping stones for the upcoming age of men, and lessons to humans seeing shortcuts that fates would be doomed if they seek magic. I was, even after being a girl, had to act like a man and portray myself as legendary King Arthur. Disgusting. However, in this story, one person that I know never existed. It was Einar. I also came across his real identity. You see, Miss Artoria, Uncle Einar is not part of this universe and neither of the legend. He is a foreign object that could be a thorn to the usual timeline of our universe. His objection was right, Einar was not part of this universe, but somehow he existed. The reason was unknown. So Miss Artoria, do you still love Uncle Einar? Galahad asked. Just like you, who treat him like a close relative, how is that possible for me to change my view on him? I still dearly love him and would do anything for him. I don't really care what and who he really is. He loves me wholeheartedly even after everything I did with him, and I love him too, so it was enough for me to stand for him. Then you know what you have to do. From here on, please support Uncle Einar. After handing over the Holy Grail, Galahad left. He also told me the real threat of this universe, that is, it will continue to treat Einar like a bug since his soul wasn't recorded in the root. To put it simply, he has to be part of this universe with an equal miracle, and that is to record him as part of the universe by killing him, then reviving him with the treasure of this universe. By doing so, he will not face a hidden sword hanging on his head. It was a tough decision, but I have to do it even if it means to kill him with my own two hands, and then tear my whole existence to give him life. I knew that Einar was somewhere facing the same threat, and if I act out of character of King Arthur, it will give more reasons to counter force, which will then spare no efforts in destroying Einar. Then I followed just like King Arthur in the story, since if not, it would create more dangers for him. I didn't pay attention to Mordred, who was also facing despair since Einar left her and let her do what she wanted. However, there was one thing missing from my plan. The Grail's power was not enough to raise Einar from dead at his prime, and in that case, I would have to sacrifice my whole being into reviving him. I know he wouldn't take this lightly, that I sacrificed myself for him, but if he was in my position, he would have done that too. He would grieve, but would live with Mordred and his teacher. At least that was my plan until Merlin asked me, Artoria, what if you don't have to sacrifice anything to save him? My questioning gazes were soon answered when he takes out a cup filled with purplish liquid. What astonished me was the dense magical energy emitting from the wine. This is another treasure of Fairy Clan called Fountain of Youth. If you drink this, it will grant you immortality forever. However, it also has other uses, and you know what to do. He gave me the treasure and left it forever. The answer was clear for me. Then, at the Hill of Camlin, I sensed Einar in bad shape and knew that what he will do, since I know him very well, so without predicting any more, I thrust my lance in his belly, ending his life. I also witnessed I was not the only one who loves Einar when I saw Mordred shedding tears and leaving her hatred behind. Say away. You killed Teach. Sniff asterisk. I won't fight now, but stay away from him. Mordred's threat was more like a plea or request, like a swan grieving for her life partner. I gently placed my head on her head and asked, Mordred, I can bring him to life again. Until then, please cooperate with me, okay? She was still scornful and reluctant to leave Einar until I tightened my grip to crush her skull, a little. I would be a mother soon and I have to be patient, so I treated Mordred as kindly as possible. Then we agreed to cooperate, and then we placed his body straight, then removed arrows that were stuck in his handsome body. I then take out the Holy Grail and poured Fountain of Youth in it to make a wish. A wish to grant Einar and his loved ones eternal salvation by living a fulfilling life. That's how I removed the lingering threat from my beloved. Einar's POV. I sighed after hearing her explanation. Even though I knew that I was in deep danger, but if not for Artoria, I would have been facing another tragedy plotted by Alea or some other means. Come to think of it, when I woke up, I was feeling a kind of connection to this world. Previously, I always felt like I was just a guest to this world, but now everything has changed thanks to Artoria. Although I was a little shocked that she made this plan all by herself, it explains her maturity and the type of girl she has become. I am sorry, Einar, that I didn't tell you and killed you like that, and Artoria apologized while moaning in between. Why she was moaning? Because I was fondling her breast and caressing her thighs since I was feeling aroused by her heroics that saved me in time. I am so grateful for her who didn't even think for a second to use the Holy Grail and Fountain of Youth to make that wish. Speaking of Fountain of Youth, How come Merlin got his hands on it? Elaine, figures. Teach, can you stop doing that for a second? It was Mordred who was also watching me flirting with her father. And I can't believe that I was played like that. She turned her head down. Then she stood up and bent down on her knees. Teach, Arturia, even though I was in a rage, I knew that what I did was wrong. You can behead me or punish me however you want. I will accept anything. In her response, both I and Arturia looked at each other and smiled. Then, is it fine for you to become my wife? Huh? She was confused. I knew that she was plagued by Alea's curse, so I can't possibly blame her. Besides, I had enough of blaming everything on my beloveds, and just want to live with them and spend the life I want. Before she could question my offer again, I pulled her in my arms, her legs around my waist and her arms around my neck as her face got closer to me. She blushed and flinched since I was naked and she must be feeling my boner. I told you your punishment. I am going to make you my wife, Mordred, is that okay? I asked, looking into her eyes. She went beet red and looked at Arturia with a questionable look. As his first and most beloved wife, I have no problems if he has more women besides me as long as he has an emotional attachment to them. Besides, I am also responsible for manipulating you like before, so it is a green signal for me. Arturia agreed with a smile. However, she put some force on first and most beloved wife, so I knew that she had no plans on stepping down from the number one spot. Mordred nodded but didn't look at me due to embarrassment. She looked adorable as she was just a tomboy before. I agree, she said with a stutter. I then nodded at Arturia to give me a little time with her alone, and she agreed and left me alone with an evil smile. I think she wants to see Mordred suffer as how hard it is to become my wife, considering my unyielding beast on my lower side, and then she would come back to save her from me becoming the first super wife. I shook my head since Arturia's personality has drastically changed after spending the night with me. I then smirked and started undressing her. Teach. She called me since I didn't give her a chance to prepare for that activity and directly start undressing her. She then got completely naked and hid her face in my chest because of embarrassment. It was a sign of her maturity since it was not the first time I was seeing her naked. When I was training her, I had seen her naked many times before, but she was just a child at that time. Well, she was also a child now since she was only 9 years old. Mordred, there is a challenge for you can become my wife. What is it, Teach? Call me, dear or honey, from now on like a wife. What? It is so embarrassing. Okay then, dear. She spoke with a blush. Then your next task is to look in my eyes without blinking on whatever I do to you. She gulped and nodded reluctantly. I then got closer and blocked her lips with mine. She widened her eyes, but then recalled the task I had given and didn't dare to look away from my eyes. However, I didn't stop with just a kiss as my right hand slipped and grabbed her ample breast while my left hand started pinching her cherry. Her body was exactly like Arturia when I first took her virginity. She tried to moan but didn't blink for even a moment. I then inserted my tongue in her mouth to increase the intensity of pleasure while also increasing the level of fondling and pinching her cherry. Then her body started jolting as if the gates of her dam were opening. And with a loud moan, her cave broke and a white greasy liquid flew into the sky. I then separated my lips and looked again into her eyes. PFF, ha 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 ha. I burst into laughter when I saw her face. I swear that her eyes could have popped out any moment as her red eyes were sticking out from sockets with tears. Huff *, I hate you. Mordred was embarrassed and panting when she realized that I was just teasing her. I then coaxed her since she was expecting that from me, but I only teased her. We then went to bed as I took her in an embrace while stroking her head. Her gazes were also striking my little brother that had calmed down since there was no chance that I would sex with Mordred as she was still not mature enough. I also explained that her body would naturally start growing since I had already removed the unaging part from my noble phantasm. You can come out, nothing is happening. I called Arturia, who was hiding behind the wall, to rescue Mordred when I go for sex. TCH. With a click of a tongue, Arturia entered the room with refreshments. She put the tray on the side table and climbed the bed and hugged Mordred. Poor child. Arturia rubbed Mordred's head, but I could see that she was just disappointed that I didn't go all out. What have I gotten myself into? Mordred shook his head and asked God if her decision to be my wife was wise enough. First me then Arturia started teasing her. Haha, anyway, I am glad that I got both father and son as my partner, I smirked. Arturia and Mordred immediately shot daggers from their eyes when I said that. It sounds so wrong. Yeah. Anyway, I love you too, Mordred. I will soon make up with you when your body gets mature. I smiled and kissed Mordred's cheeks. She nodded with rosy cheeks. Now, take a good rest. I know you two must be exhausted. Both of them nodded and then hugged each other like sisters and closed their eyes and fell asleep. I knew that both of them were tired from taking care of me this whole time, plus the exhaustion of war and what they went through, so I let them sleep. I covered them with blanket, hugged both girls with my other arm, and then also closed my eyes. Our gray days were finally over. Third person's POV. Kay looked from his window for afar and smiled after looking at the bright gleaming sky. The knight had sold all his weapons and armors and was now living quietly in a desolate village with his family. Yahoo Einar, my son. You have done it. Now I am free to lure MILFs with big breasts whose husbands are away. It was the voice of Uther Pendragon, who was now free from his role of a defeated king. He also managed to stay alive, but... Hooray ACH! He jumped with joy but forgot his old age, broke his spine, and dying on the spot. A cry of an infant could be heard in a house in France. It's a boy. What should we name him? It was Lancelot who asked his wife Guinevere, holding a baby in her arms. Isn't that obvious? He will be called Einar Sirius, our savior, who gave us a second life. Guinevere smiled looking at her adorable child. Why don't I remember anything? Was my name really Gawain Brando? Gawain was confused, scratching his head since he didn't quite remember anything. Big brother, hurry up. We should get going or the boat will leave us. Yeah, hurry up. It was the call of his two siblings, Gaheris and Gareth. They were on a coast waiting to cross the sea and find employment in Europe. Tristan was also mesmerizing at the sun setting behind waters with his beloved wife, Isolde, in her arms. Time will leave. Thank you, Sir Einar. Tristan smiled and thanked his savior to grant him this life. Percival and Galahad, two young knights of the Round Table, also looking at the scenery of their land for the final time. I have a dream to find a girl who is as kind as amazing as Uncle Einar and marry her, Galahad confessed with firm determination. You are so gay. Percival shook his head at the antics of his friend. Yohu. We heard that you are looking for fairies? They turned behind and saw two fairies waving their hands standing on a lake. Hey Galahad, do you remember what Sir Einar used to say? Yeah, if you ever see a fairy seducing you, press the F button and run like a bitch. Then both of them ran away from two fairies. Even though their mentor was also a fairy, but they understand that Einar was exceptional, as fairies, in general, are perverts, especially females, they will suck you dry. You have created a lot of problems for my son, you wanna be fairy? Before Vivian was standing a woman with silver hair and pale skin wearing a short maid dress. Hi, Lady Vivian. Morgan Le Fay saluted. Call me, Master. Vivian yelled and whipped Morgan's ass. Hi, Master. And help me seduce my son. Wait, wah. Morgan was at the mercy of this sadist sun-con fairy and could only pray to be saved by someone. Garden of Avalon. Kua. Merlin was taking a nap when a wild fluffy creature kicked his face. Foo. You motherfucker, I hate you, the created howled cutely. How many times I have to say that I don't need to eat so I don't have food, Kua? Merlin was speaking when Fo kicked his face again. Fo. Fuck you. And so Merlin cursed his fate for end up being trapped with this fluffy creature who was taking revenge for someone's instead. Einar's POV. King Arthur was the figure that was like his own religion embedded in everyone's hearts. He rose from scratch and moved like a storm. People of Britons were losing hope day by day, but then that ideal king rose in the sky like a dragon and spreads his wings, they saw a new light. Soon the King Arthur defeated demon dragon Vortigern, taking revenge for his father and rebuilt the holy cathedral Camelot. He then welcomed Queen Guinevere in the capital, married her, but was unable to produce an heir to the throne. However, King Arthur's sister Morgan Le Fay became a witch as her plots responsible for the destruction of Caliban were revealed, but as a magus, no one was able to catch her. Who would have thought that she was bearing a child from sperms taken from her brother Arthur? Anyway, the story continues, and the king remained unmatched, completely disregarding human emotions, making him further away from people. He was a perfect king, but not a human anymore. Curse Land refused to bore more crops to feed the Britons, but people still believed in the king. As long as the king's path is unhindered, nothing can stop him. But his nature made a knight leave the round table, saying that the king doesn't understand the hurt of people. It was the starting point of the destruction of the round table. Dry lands and harsh weather were still there that made it impossible for people of this land to survive. As such a miracle was needed. Search for the Holy Grail began and soon ended in failure. After the expedition, another bad news was revealed. The affair between Knight of the Lake, Lancelot and Queen Guinevere was revealed by Agravain. Queen Guinevere was executed was committing the horrendous crime of adultery while Lancelot was able to flee after failing to save his lover, Guinevere. However, he killed many knights in his madness of pursuit, including Gawain's two little siblings. Before such Mordred, a knight under King Arthur also revealed his identity as the son of Arthur, but King Arthur refused to acknowledge him. Then was the final phase of King Arthur, that was the 12th and final battle of King Arthur. He killed Mordred, the leader of the rebels, but the cost was bigger. He lost people and was also injured by the cursed sword of Mordred since he had already lost Avalon. Bedivere, a knight with one hand, soon found out the dying body of King Arthur. Take this sword and returned it to the Lady of the Lake. King Arthur entrusted the legendary sword to Bedivere and asked him to return the sword to its owner. Bedivere prayed for King Arthur to find happiness not as a king but as a person, and after hesitating for a second time, Bedivere threw the sword in the lake. However, before King Arthur's death, a force appeared in front of him and offered him to enter a place called Throne of Heroes if he wants to search for the Holy Grail and correct his mistakes. King Arthur agrees as his body disappeared. And such the story ended. Where's our main character Einar Sirius du Lac? He never existed in the first place. Even if his feats were remembered, there was not a single soul alive to tell the tales. That's the end of the story. Thanks, Einar, if not for you, then my life would be so miserable, Artoria said, holding my hand. However, somehow it gets blurred for some reason. We were watching a carbon copy of Artoria being absorbed by Counterforce, a false reality that I created with my second noble phantasm. I rewrite the memories of Old Britons to Saxons by stating that Old Britons died in the war. Although I was already in a clear zone, I knew that Artoria and other people that I saved from those fates will soon be chased. As such, the age of men will come. Although I won't be remembered by people, it was okay for me. I just want to spend my life quietly. Artoria, I, and Mordred were ready to leave Camlan to my small territory called Leona. We have already decided to live quietly from now on. Hey T dear, how come I am your third wife? Who is second? Mordred asked. She was supposed to be second, but I have told them there was another candidate among them. Her. I pointed at a woman on a horse wearing a cloak. When she removed her cloak, a beautiful woman was revealed with purple hair and crimson red eyes. Yo disciple. Sure show. Well, I think I should call you Scathack from now on. I smiled. SCA what? Both Artoria and Mordred looked at each other confusedly. Another two Britons failed to pronounce her name. You two, hurry up. You are coming with me. Scathack called Artoria and Mordred. What do you mean? All three of us were confused. You two girls are not matured enough. Scathack told this to Artoria and Mordred and then looked at me, wait for a few years and make a castle for us in the meantime. And don't let me down, you hear disciple? Scathack said and then dragged both the father-son duo with her. Mordred was reluctant, but Artoria agreed since both of their bodies were not matured enough, and considering my sex drive, even I was unsure about their health. They have also taken Rangamaniad with them to progress their growth faster. No, my waifus. I cried, but there was nothing I could do. I have to wait a little more. Hee, my new life is waiting. I chuckled and began my journey to set the stage to welcome my wives. And so it was the end of my story, but I think I am missing something important. Third person's POV. At distant future. Magnificent. Just brilliant. How wise the writer of this book would be. All thanks to him. A man was praising the author of the book he was holding. He was William Shakespeare, a servant summoned for the Holy Grail War. However, he was summoned with an unparalleled book, a noble phantasm that he was not supposed to possess. From that noble phantasm, he created so strong characters who make weird poses, but had unparalleled strength. Can stop time, can change themselves according to the situation, can even control life. Some of them could control sun-like powers, while some were ancient vampires. As such, he easily won Holy Grail with these jacked men of culture. All hail to Einar Sirius. Shakespeare raised the book in the sky. The book's name was JoJo References Volume X. Einar's POV. And that's how I met your mother, I say, completing the story of my life. That's unfair, father. You replaced the names of a story you have previously written. Yeah, it doesn't have any action. At a stand, Zawaradu. These are the comments of my twin, Jojo, and Dio. They are from Scathack, and as you expect from core JoJo fan, she named them after the culture itself. Humph, at least it is better than Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. He is my son, Max. Hee, that was funny too. It would be better for Snow White to enter Papa's harem. This brat is my daughter and twin older sister of Max, Melanie. Both of them are also twins and children from Mordred. They are brats like Mordred and like to tease me to make many mommies. Fufu, it can't be helped, our father is just perfect and charming. It was the statement of a blonde hair girl and green eyes sitting on my lap, my eldest daughter with Artoria, Arya. She is also my most beloved since she is my first child with Artoria. Dream on, only I could be father's wife, big sister Arya. She is my second daughter with Artoria, Ariel. She is the youngest among my all children. And, yeah, I also have bad memory with this name cough, Mashuko Tensei cough. Hee, dream on girls since Papa already have 3 beautiful wives. I chuckle and kiss my children one by one. It has been 6 years since I have married 3 beautiful women, Artoria, Scathack, and Mordred living in Leona. They returned after 5 years after the Battle of Camlan. They also used Rangaminiad's power since its divinity could enhance grown of a person. Then I married them and produced this horde of children in just 6 years. Though they were happy at the beginning but soon find it hard to deal with my sex drive. They even introduced me to some maids, but I am a stubborn fairy and refused to make love beside them. Speaking of other candidates, I even encountered 3 fairies, Vivian, Elaine, and Morgan occasionally seducing me, but they are not near my strength to even force me to bed them. Anyway, my first child is Arya, who was born with Artoria, second is Scathack's 2 brats, the third is another pair of twins by Mordred. Then Artoria gave birth to another girl shortly after the firstborn. As such, I have to become a house husband to raise these children carefully. I have skills, so it is not a problem for me, but for them. So here I am telling them stories before they sleep. I was telling some jokes to them when the door opened and a beautiful woman entered. She has beautiful long blonde hair and green emerald eyes, wearing a white shirt and black pants with a sword hanging on her belt. The person looks like Evangeline A.K. McDowell aka Yukiheim, is actually a former knight of treachery, Mordred. However, she changed her name and acquired a new identity, now she is called Morrigan. She was named after the Celtic goddess of war. Hop, brats, it's time to sleep. Morrigan says, and with her one call, all of them shudder and went to their beds. I smile and then walk towards her. I will rock you tonight, I say, and lick her cheek. She blushes when I did that. Yahoo, we are going to have another sibling. Yeah, Papa will make his own soccer team. Then which mother are you going to bet? I say all. And then these pipsqueaks start gossiping under the covers. Morrigan become beet red and yelled, sleep. I chuckle and after slapping her butt, I left the room. She is now the chief of knights of the city and is responsible to train them, so she was one of my wives supporting the family. She is still a novice in household work and prefers outdoor work. Finally, I clenched my fist as today is a Sunday and I will be having a foursome. We have already made a schedule where they would sleep with me for 2 days in the week, respectively, then we would have a foursome on Sundays. I then enter another chamber and see a woman with purple hair, surrounded by papers. Era, disciple. Are you here to help your Shurshow? Scathack smiles and says. I smile and quietly walk behind her and start massaging her shoulders. Now my dear Shurshow, who said that a person with the ruling class is born to rule? I smirk as my hands reach downward, under her bra, stopping on her breasts. Just like Mordred, she is now the Queen of Leona under a new name, Siobhan, since most of them couldn't pronounce her name properly. In the beginning, we were planning to be low keys, but she and Mordred insisted on making a royalty class in the territory. And then Shurshow won't accompany Disciple for the night activity, she also smirks while enjoying breast massage. Are you threatening me? I ask while my hand slips further down to her nether region. And you bet, she smiles being in heat. I then let her go and walk towards the door. I snap my finger and a big stuffed bear appears. Where bunny girl? This dirty disciple will beat Shersho in bed again. I say. Humph, we will see. Scat-Hack stands from the seat, kisses my cheek, and ran towards the bedroom. Though she always challenges me in bed, she is always being the first one to lose even from Mordred. I then walk upstairs to the rooftop to find my first wife. There I see the most beautiful woman of my life. Under the radiating moonlight was sitting a woman drinking tea elegantly. She has long blonde bangs, while her back was tied in a braid. She was wearing a full-sleeve sweater and long skirt, but it didn't hide the robust curves of her body. She is Arthurian Pendragon, my first and most beloved wife. Call me a simp, but I just love her more than anything in the world. Oh, my beloved lord husband. She stands up and greets me when her sight falls on me. Who would have thought that one day a simple country girl and an airhead will become the most beautiful person in this world? I smile just looking at her eyes. She has become so charming that I can't take my eyes from her whole body. She has even greater curves than Skahatch now that she has fully matured. She also smiles, then walks towards me, but then kneels. Einar, my beloved husband, I thank you wholeheartedly for giving me this life. Thank you for forgiving me and giving me a chance. I could have never achieved this happiness without you. Please accept the humblest gratitude from this ever-loving wife. My eyes become teary when she confesses again to me. She also turns her head and looks into my eyes with joyful tears in her eyes and a beaming smile on her face. I gently hold her hands and then take her in my embrace. She is nearly as tall as me, since I still look like a 19-years-old teen and she looks like my big sister than my wife. I should be the one thanking you, Artoria. I was also running on the wrong path even after being reincarnated with a mature mentality. Thank you for everything too, Artoria, my beloved wife. I also confessed. After shedding some tears of happiness, we look at each other and chuckle. Then I stared into her eyes and stroked her bang behind her hair while getting closer to her face. Artoria, I love you. I love you too, Einar. Then closing the distance, both of our lips met. In real life, what matters most is a gentle heart, hard work and kind people. If you want to save your beloveds, then fight with their fates, not fight. And so we live. A girl could be seen walking nervously in the hallway towards the special room. She had shoulder-length red hair tied in a side ponytail on the left side with a usually yellow hairband and a cowlick, and light orange eyes. I hope I could summon an SSR servant. She was biting her nails and sweating from the anxiety. Her name was Ritsuka Fujimaru, the sole master of Chaldea as well as humanity. Her role was to work as a magus and to summon servants to help in her quest. It was a special day for Ritsuka as she was taking a risk of losing a lot of Saint Quartz for this event. The reason behind this was to complete the servants from the Knights of the Round Table. This morning. Gil-san, why are you so angry? Ritsuka asked Caster Gil. That rude Merlin thinks that he has the greatest clairvoyance and was using his skill to find our belongings and threatening me. Caster Gil crossed his arms. Did he find out your porn collection again? How did you, don't be a mongrel, Ritsuka Fujimaru. More importantly, the point is, if you don't stop him then I will take this matter into my hand. This organization will not be safe. The dogs of the Round Table are really troublesome. Geez, why the hell my other self is up for that gender-bend king? Caster Gil said after a moment of embarrassment. Calm down, Gil-san. I will talk to him. Ritsuka tried her negligible womanly charm to stop the king of heroes. Wait. Caster Gil stopped Ritsuka while looking at the sky before suddenly burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, those mongrels of the Round Table shall now face their worst fate ever, ha ha ha. What's the matter now, Gil-san? Is it about another singularity? Ritsuka asked with worry. Haha, no, and rejoice as today you have a good chance to summon a very special servant. Go and summon him. I want to see Merlin's face. I will tell him that his doom is coming. Go now and you may summon him. He is someone from Knights of the Round Table too. Caster Gil said and left. But I promised myself that I will save SQs for a special event. Ritsuka said with a defeated look looking at 30 SQs. But after considering Caster Gil's advice, she has to take the risk. Upon her way, she read various expressions from Knights of the Round Table. I am not feeling well. Something even more fearful from the destruction of humanity is approaching. I could feel it. Gawain could be seen walking with another knight at the round table. But I don't think so. I feel like someone very closer to culture will approach us. I must polish my poetry skills and singing skills. I hope that I could defeat that someone someday. Tristan said, looking at the sky with open eyes that were rare coming from someone whose eyes were always close or so squinted that he looked Asian. Ugh. Sir Tristan, I advise you to forget about challenging him, especially with your rank E luck. Gawain said with a pale face. Tristan was taken back for a little before he spoke. Let's go fishing. Yes. Who could it be? Ritsuka's curiosity was now getting bigger and bigger. She didn't know why their intuition was working like this. If they have this skill in battle, then she wouldn't have to face near-death experience every time in each singularity. She then saw Bedivere and Lancelot, Saber, walking. Bedivere was flustered for some reason, while Lancelot was frowning for some reason. Well, he was always frowning considering his past. Sir Lancelot, my embarrassing memories are kept repeating in front of my eyes. Why? I don't get the reason. Bedivere asked Lancelot with a flushed face. Same here. I felt like a big brother being beaten by his younger brother over and over again. Lancelot shook his face. It is nothing than being forced to wear maid outfit, nurse outfit and act like a girl. I should consult with Merlin to erase my memories. Bedivere said, and a clear smoke could be seen coming from his ears. But being reprimanded by your little brother was also a frustrating moment. Sir Bedivere, let's go fishing. Lancelot suggested like one other night. Yes, you are right, Sir Lancelot. I remember we used this spot to share our sorrows. I hope it doesn't come to worst. Bedivere said with a sigh. Even them? Ritsuka was now certain to roll her luck. She then came across the male toilet and saw Kuchulain and Diarmuid Ue Duibni outside the toilet hitting the door. Merlin! Come out now! See, you screamed. No. Ritsuka heard Merlin's voice. How long are you going to be in the toilet? As long as my tingling feeling in my stomach doesn't get away. My dick is also hurting for some reason. What type of disease be hurting to Merlin, the great mage? Diarmuid asked. Get lost. You 3-star lancers with shit luck should go and pray to a god to improve your luck and don't end up committing suicide. But we are atheists? Then worship that body-tight suit woman, your owner. F***ck, my dick hurts. Alright. We are breaking this door. Siyu was pissed and tried to destroy the door, but it was ineffective. Haha, invincibility bitches. What the? Ritsuka was astonished upon hearing foul words from Magus of Flowers. The concern over why Lancers were nervous that there was a need to go to the toilet as a servant didn't ring a bell for Ritsuka. She also saw concerned moms of Chaldea, Emiya, and Boudica in the cafeteria. She also bumped into a man with long hair and 2-piece suit looked like someone from Knights of the Round Table. Who are you? Ritsuka asked. Master, you forget about me. I am Other Lancelot. The man spoke. You mean Berserker Lancelot? Yes, I have been turned into New Leaf. All for the greater good of this organization. I let go of M. Sorrows and Hatterads. Lancelot spoke while shaking visibly. The F***ck. Back to the current state. Ritsuka saw Da Vinci and Mash Kirilight in the summoning room. Why are you guys here? Ritsuka asked. She was more concerned since Mash was also looking nervous like the rest of the Knights of the Round Table. She is not feeling well and asked me to stop you from summoning. Da Vinci said. Senpai, my instincts are telling me to stop you. Mash said with a nervous face. Relax, it is normal summoning. Don't worry, since my luck is not very good lately. Ritsuka said with crossed fingers. She was determined to summon at any cost. Without waiting for further, Ritsuka rolled. Light of the summoning consumed the room with golden rays, and soon a figure emerged from the summoning circle. He was a boy appearing in his teens, with blonde hair and an angelic face. He was carrying a book in one hand and floating in the air. Servant, Lancer. My name is Einar Sirius Dulac, the mysterious Knight of the Round Table, their greatest support as well as their doom. The body introduced himself. You can call me Lancer with EX rank or luckiest Lancer or greatest knight class servant in the history. It was the day side for greatest demise for Knights of the Round Table. If you want to support me, check out my Patreon at https://www.patreon.com/Kayashin. I tend to polls that decide important plot stuff in my P at Trian. Many thanks to my awesome patrons. Ben Phillips, Yami Tancho, Harold Martinsons, Kenny Nielsen. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be here until next time.